The abandonment. The azure skies of Aurelia Prime darkened as the Ragnar warships descended through the atmosphere, their obsidian hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. From her position in the towering crystalline spire that housed the diplomatic guild, Ambassador Talia Vex watched in horror as the first energy barrages struck the city's outer districts. The shield generators, designed for weather control and debris deflection, collapsed within seconds against weapons specifically calibrated to their frequency. "They're targeting civilian centers first," Talia whispered, her luminescent skin dimming with distress, four-fingered hands pressed against the transparent viewing portal. "This isn't a border dispute or resource negotiation. This is extermination." Her aide, Merrick, frantically worked the communications array. "Ambassador, the evacuation protocols are active, but the Ragnar have destroyed our orbital platforms. Most ships won't make it off-world." "The Galactic Council's response?" Talia asked, though the sinking feeling in her core already suggested the answer. Merrick's face, normally bearing the serene expression typical of Aurelians, contorted with rage and disbelief. "They've declined emergency intervention. High Chancellor Dorovan sent this personally." The holographic display activated, revealing the imposing figure of Dorovan, the Centauri representative who had led the Galactic Council for 15 cycles. His multiple eyes blinked independently, a sign of careful calculation rather than distress. "Ambassador Vex, the Council has reviewed your petition for emergency intervention and finds that current political considerations do not permit direct action in what appears to be a regional conflict. The Ragnar Empire has assured us this is a limited territorial action based on historical claims to the Aurelian system. We recommend diplomatic engagement and suggest evacuation of non-essential personnel." The message ended, leaving the chamber in silence broken only by distant explosions as ancient Aurelian structures crumbled under Ragnar bombardment. "Limited territorial action." Talia's voice trembled not with fear, but with fury. "They're systematically destroying everything we've built over 6,000 years of civilization. Intelligence suggests the Ragnar discovered the quantum resonance fields beneath our continental shelf," Merrick said hollowly. "With those resources, they could quintuple their military capacity within a decade. And the Council knows this," Talia concluded. "They've calculated it's better to sacrifice one member world than risk conflict with the Ragnar." Another explosion rocked the diplomatic tower, causing lights to flicker and crystalline fragments to rain from the ceiling. "We've been loyal members of the Galactic Council since its founding," Talia said, moving quickly to her command console. "We provided the medical technologies that ended the Centauri plague. We shared our atmospheric stabilization methods freely after the quantum rifts. And this is how they repay us." "Ambassador, what are you doing?" Merrick asked, watching as Talia's fingers flew across the interface. "Contacting the only species in this sector not bound by council politics," Talia replied, her eyes gleaming with desperate hope. "The only ones who might still remember what loyalty means." Merrick's expression shifted to confusion. "The humans, but they're barely integrated into galactic society. They've only achieved FTL capability in the last 3 decades. They have no significant fleet, no advanced weapons platforms. What they lack in technology, they make up for in determination and ingenuity." Talia interrupted. "Remember the mining catastrophe on Proxima Delta? The Council declared it unsalvageable. 14,000 colonists abandoned to their fate. Yet a single human vessel managed to stabilize the reactor core and evacuate every survivor." Her fingers paused over the console. "Besides, we have nothing to lose. The Ragnar will strip our world and enslave our people. If there's even a chance the humans will help." The transmission array hummed to life, directed toward the distant Sol system. Talia composed a simple message devoid of diplomatic formalities. "To Earth Command. Aurelia Prime under invasion by Ragnar Empire. Galactic Council has abandoned us. Our people face extinction. We request assistance in the name of our previous alliance during the Proxima Delta incident. We beg for your help." Coordinates and approach vectors attached. She sent the message, knowing it would take hours to reach Earth, hours during which more of her world would burn. "Now we wait," she said softly, "and hope humanity's reputation for loyalty isn't exaggerated." Commander Elena Reyes stood before the viewing port of the EDF Invictus, Earth's largest military vessel, which wasn't saying much in galactic terms. At 600 meters in length, the Invictus would barely qualify as a mid-tier patrol craft by Council standards. But it was the pride of Earth's nascent defense fleet, a testament to humanity's determination to secure its place among the stars. Commander, her XO, Lieutenant Commander Akachi, approached with a datapad. "We've received a priority transmission from an unexpected source." Elena took the pad, her brow furrowing as she read the desperate plea from Aurelia Prime. "The Aurelians, they helped us after first contact, didn't they?" Akechi nodded. "Their medical technologies saved millions during the Antarctic pandemic, and they were the first to openly trade with us, when most Council species considered us too primitive for meaningful exchange." Elena's jaw tightened. "And now the Council's abandoned them to the Ragnar." She handed the pad back to Akachi. "How long would it take us to reach Aurelia Prime?" "At maximum sustainable FTL. Approximately 46 hours. "But Commander," Akachi hesitated, "the Ragnar Empire possesses technology centuries beyond our capabilities. Their smallest destroyer could likely eliminate our entire fleet. And we've made exactly zero progress in being recognized by the Council by playing it safe," Elena countered. "Prepare a briefing for all ship commanders. I want options on my desk in 1 hour." "You're considering intervention?" Akachi asked carefully. "I'm considering repaying a debt," Elena replied. "The Aurelians stood by humanity when others wouldn't. That counts for something in my book." 90 minutes later, the command staff of Earth's defense fleet gathered in the Invictus's Strategic Operations Center. The holographic display showed the desperate situation unfolding at Aurelia Prime, with Ragnar forces systematically dismantling planetary defenses and beginning ground operations. "The diplomatic corps strongly advises against military intervention," Ambassador Collins stated, his image projected from Earth. "The Council has made its position clear. This is an internal matter between the Ragnar and Aurelians." "With respect, Ambassador," Elena replied, "when a civilization that helped us in our darkest hour calls for aid, that's not an internal matter. That's a test of our principles." Admiral Chen, the highest-ranking officer present, studied the tactical display with a grim expression. "Commander Reyes, while I sympathize with your position, we must consider the strategic reality. Earth cannot afford to make an enemy of the Ragnar Empire, especially when the Council has explicitly chosen non-intervention." Elena stood straighter. "Admiral, permission to speak freely?" Chen nodded. "If we abandon the Aurelians after everything they've done for humanity, what message does that send to the galaxy? That we're just another species willing to sacrifice allies for political convenience." She gestured to the display showing Aurelia's burning cities. "The Aurelians chose to help humanity when we were nothing to them. If we turn our backs now, we're no better than the Council." Silence fell over the command center as her words sank in. Admiral Chen finally spoke. "You realize this could potentially isolate Earth from the galactic community. The Council won't look kindly on us intervening where they've declined to act." "Perhaps," Elena acknowledged, "but I'd rather humanity be known for its loyalty than its political calculation." After a long moment, Chen nodded slowly. "I'll approve a limited relief operation. Your primary objective will be evacuation of Aurelian civilians, not direct military engagement with Ragnar forces." "Thank you, Admiral," Elena said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "Don't thank me yet, Commander," Chen replied grimly. "You'll be taking 16 vessels against what intelligence suggests is a Ragnar battle group of over 40 warships. This may well be a one-way mission." Elena looked around at her fellow officers, seeing determination rather than fear in their eyes. "The Aurelians didn't abandon us when we needed them. We won't abandon them now." Orders went out across Earth's modest fleet. Within 4 hours, 16 vessels broke orbit and aligned for FTL jump toward Aurelia Prime. As the Invictus prepared to make the jump, Alina sent a simple response to Ambassador Talia Vex. To Ambassador Vex, humanity remembers its friends. Help is coming. Hold on. 72 hours after the initial Ragnar assault, half of Aurelia Prime lay in ruins. Talia had relocated the emergency command center to underground caverns as the diplomatic tower had been reduced to crystalline rubble by precision strikes. Hope had nearly abandoned her when a communications officer burst into the strategic chamber. Ambassador, we're detecting multiple FTL signatures at the edge of our system. Talia's heart sank. More Ragnar reinforcements. No, Ambassador. The signatures. They're human. Dangerous hope flickered in Talia's chest as she rushed to the view screen. The display shifted to show the outer reaches of the Aurelian system, where space itself seemed to ripple as vessels emerged from FTL. Human vessels weren't the elegant biomimetic designs of Council species, nor the imposing black daggers of the Ragnar. They were utilitarian, modular, built for function rather than form. But as ship after ship materialized, cruisers, destroyers, and countless smaller craft, Talia felt tears forming in her luminescent eyes. A transmission request flashed on the screen. Talia composed herself and accepted. The face that appeared belonged to a human woman with determined eyes and a steady gaze. Ambassador Vex, I'm Commander Alina Reyes of Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. The EDF response fleet is at your service. We've brought everything we could muster on short notice. 16 combat vessels and support craft. Please share your tactical situation so we can coordinate our approach. For a moment, Talia couldn't speak, overwhelmed by gratitude. Thank you, Commander, she finally managed. But I must be honest, the Ragnar forces are overwhelming. They have more advanced weapons, stronger shields. I cannot ask your people to sacrifice themselves in a battle we may not win. Commander Reyes smiled, a surprisingly gentle expression on her weathered face. With respect, Ambassador, you didn't ask us to come. You asked for help, and we decided how to provide it. As for the technological gap, her smile widened into something fiercer. Humans have always been good at finding creative solutions to superior firepower. The commander leaned forward, her expression intensifying. More importantly, Ambassador, we help because it's right. When humanity was struggling with its first steps into space, your people shared medical technology that saved millions of lives on Earth. We don't forget our friends. For the first time since the invasion began, Talia felt a genuine surge of hope. The Ragnar have established orbital superiority, Merrick reported, transmitting tactical data to the human fleet. Their ground forces are advancing on our remaining population centers from multiple vectors. Our military was primarily defensive. Most of our forces were neutralized in the initial attack. Commander Reyes studied the data, her expression calculating. Their fleet configuration is focused on planetary bombardment, not ship-to-ship combat. Good. We'll hit them hard where they're not looking. Establish a beachhead in orbit, then deploy ground forces to secure key evacuation zones. She looked up, meeting Talia's eyes through the transmission. We can't promise victory, Ambassador, but we can promise that the Ragnar will know they've been in a fight, and that the Aurelian people will not stand alone. As the transmission ended, Merrick approached Talia, his expression conflicted. Do you think they can really make a difference? They're just one species with minimal galactic experience and technologically inferior vessels. Talia watched the tactical display as the human vessels moved into formation with a precision that belied their reputation as newcomers to interstellar warfare. They came, Merrick, she said simply. When the entire Galactic Council abandoned us, humanity crossed 22 light-years to stand at our side. That alone makes them different, and sometimes being different is exactly what's needed to change the course of history. Outside, in the smoke-filled sky above the Aurelian capital, The first flashes of orbital combat began to illuminate the clouds as humanity brought war to the Ragnar invaders. The stand. The Ragnar had not expected resistance from space. Their sensors had detected the human fleet's arrival, but their commanders had dismissed the incoming vessels as poorly armed, technologically inferior, and ultimately irrelevant. The Council's abandonment of Aurelia had convinced them that victory was assured, and they had grown complacent. Their orbital formation spread thin as they focused on bombarding the planet below. It was into this overconfidence that Commander Reyes launched her attack. Human ships didn't emerge from hyperspace in standard military formation. Instead, they appeared in seemingly random patterns across the Aurelian system, each small battle group targeting a different Ragnar vessel or installation. Before the Ragnar could reorganize their forces, the humans were among them, unleashing devastating close-range attacks from unexpected vectors. From the underground command center, Talia and her advisors watched in astonishment as tactical displays showed the chaotic battle unfolding in orbit. "What are they doing?" Merrick asked, bewildered by the humans' apparent disregard for conventional space combat doctrine. "They're violating every principle of unified fleet operations." An older Aurelian military advisor, General Soren, watched with growing admiration. "They're fighting asymmetrically. The Ragnar expect coordinated, predictable attacks, the kind the Council would mount. The humans are deliberately creating chaos, forcing the Ragnar to fight multiple small-scale engagements simultaneously." On the Invictus, Commander Reyes coordinated the assault, her voice calm despite the shuddering impacts as Ragnar energy weapons occasionally found their mark on the human vessel's shields. Battlegroup Sigma. Execute Thesis Protocol on target Epsilon. Battlegroup Delta. Commence Operation Hornet's Nest on the Ragnar command carrier. Lieutenant Commander Akechi managed tactical operations beside her. "Ragnar vessels are attempting to consolidate their formation, Commander." "Exactly as anticipated," Elena replied. "Deploy Phase 2 countermeasures." Throughout the Aurelian system, smaller human craft suddenly unleashed thousands of miniature drones, each barely larger than a human hand, but equipped with powerful electronic warfare capabilities. The swarms enveloped Ragnar vessels, disrupting their communications and sensor arrays. "Their technology may be superior," Elena explained to her bridge crew, "but their tactical doctrine is rigid, hierarchical. Cut off their ability to coordinate, and individual ship commanders become hesitant, waiting for orders that can't get through." The innovative human strategy was working. Despite their technological disadvantage, Earth's fleet was creating enough chaos to temporarily neutralize the Ragnar orbital superiority. "Commander," Akachi reported, "we've created a secure corridor to the surface. Ground teams are ready for deployment." Elena nodded. "Begin evacuation operations. Priority to civilians and cultural repositories." On the surface of Aurelia Prime, the first human dropships descended through the atmosphere, bypassing ongoing battles to reach designated evacuation zones. Unlike the sleek, automated vessels of Council species, human craft were piloted by individuals making split-second decisions, adjusting trajectories unpredictably to avoid Ragnar targeting systems. Major Diana Santos led the ground forces, establishing a defensive perimeter around the largest remaining Aurelian population center. Human soldiers in powered exoskeletons, crude by galactic standards but effective, moved through the crystalline ruins, guiding terrified civilians toward evacuation points. "The Ragnar ground forces are converging on our position," her second-in-command reported. "Estimated time to engagement, 12 minutes. Diana surveyed the evacuation zone, where thousands of Aurelians waited to board Earth transports. "We need more time." She activated her comlink. "All combat teams, prepare for defensive engagement. Priority is buying time for civilian evacuation." When the Ragnar assault force arrived, towering reptilian warriors in advanced battle armor, they expected minimal resistance. What they encountered instead were entrenched human positions using the rubble of Aurelian buildings as improvised fortifications. The humans had deployed sonic disruptors. technology borrowed from mining operations that interfered with the Ragnar soldiers' neural links to their powered armor. They're adapting. A Ragnar commander hissed as another assault wave faltered against the human defensive line. How are they doing this with such primitive technology? In orbit, the battle had reached a critical phase. The initial surprise of the human attack was wearing off, and the Ragnar were beginning to coordinate their responses despite the electronic warfare interference. Battle groups Omega and Tau have taken heavy damage, Akachi reported on the Invictus. Ragnar reinforcements are arriving from their outpost on the second moon. Elena studied the tactical display, looking for weaknesses in the Ragnar formation. We need something they won't expect, something outside their experience. Her eyes narrowed as she focused on the Ragnar flagship. What's the status of Operation Trojan Horse? Insertion team is in position but undetected, awaiting your command. Earlier, during the chaotic initial engagement, a specialized human team had maneuvered a seemingly disabled shuttlecraft near the massive Ragnar command vessel. The Ragnar, dismissing it as battle debris, had ignored it. Execute Trojan Horse, Elena ordered. Aboard the shuttle, Lieutenant Wei Zong and his team activated their stealth systems, technology adapted from Earth's pre-FTL space exploration, designed to minimize detection by focusing on the specific wavelengths most galactic sensors ignored. Remember, Zhang told his team as they prepared to breach the Ragnar vessel, their internal security is designed to detect energy weapons and explosives. That's why we're going old school. The human operatives carried composite blades and projectile weapons, technology so ancient that Ragnar's security systems weren't calibrated to detect them. They moved through the massive vessel like ghosts, targeting critical systems identified in their intelligence briefings. In the command center on Aurelia's surface, Talia watched in amazement as the Ragnar flagship suddenly went dark, its weapons and propulsion systems failing simultaneously. What just happened? She asked, unable to believe what she was seeing. General Soren stared at the display in disbelief. The humans somehow disabled the Ragnar command vessel from the inside. Without their flagship coordinating the battle, the Ragnar fleet fell into disarray. Contradictory orders spread through their formations as secondary commanders attempted to take control, resulting in collisions and friendly fire incidents that further reduced their effectiveness. Elena seized the moment. All vessels, execute Operation Checkmate. Ground teams, accelerate evacuation operations. The human fleet suddenly consolidated its scattered formation, concentrating firepower on key Ragnar vessels, while evacuation ships streamed from the surface, carrying thousands of Aurelian civilians. On the ground, Major Santos and her teams began a fighting retreat toward their extraction points. 83% of civilians in our zone evacuated, she reported, requesting 10 more minutes to complete operations. Understood, Major, Elena replied. We'll hold this position as long as we can. The Invictus shuddered as Ragnar energy weapons found their mark, straining the vessel's shields to their limits. Commander, Akachi warned, structural integrity is at 60% and falling. We cannot sustain this position much longer. Elena's expression remained resolute. We hold until our people are off the surface. Divert auxiliary power to forward shields. In the underground command center, Ambassador Telia Vex made her decision. General Soren, prepare our remaining forces. We're joining the battle. Ambassador, Merrick questioned. Our military capacity is virtually non-existent. What we lack in weapons, we make up for in knowledge, Talia replied. We know this system better than anyone. There are gravitational anomalies in the asteroid belt that our navigation systems are calibrated to avoid. Anomalies the Ragnar don't know about. She opened a channel to the Invictus. Commander Reyes, this is Ambassador Vex. We're transmitting coordinates for a strategic retreat path through our asteroid belt. The route appears suicidal on sensors, but we can guide your fleet safely through. The Ragnar will either have to break off pursuit or risk destruction in the gravitational shear zones. On the Invictus, Alina studied the proposed route with raised eyebrows. That's threading a needle blindfolded, Ambassador. We've been navigating those passages for centuries, Commander. Trust us as we trusted you. Alina nodded. Transmit the navigational data. All vessels, prepare for strategic withdrawal on my mark. As the last evacuation ships lifted from Aurelia's surface, the human fleet began a coordinated retreat toward the asteroid belt, drawing the Ragnar pursuers into the trap. The first Ragnar vessels to enter the belt, ignoring the seemingly erratic course corrections of the human ships, were torn apart by invisible gravitational forces that warped space itself. The remaining Ragnar fleet halted their pursuit at the edge of the belt, unwilling to risk further losses against an enemy that had already proven far more dangerous than anticipated. Aboard the Invictus, Alina watched as the tactical display showed the Ragnar forces regrouping around Aurelia Prime. They had lost nearly a third of their fleet to the humans' unconventional tactics and the unexpected trap in the asteroid belt. "Status report," she ordered. Akachi's expression was grim but satisfied. 3 vessels lost, 7 others with significant damage. Casualty reports still coming in, but preliminary estimates suggest we've evacuated over 80,000 Aurelian civilians. And the Trojan Horse team. Lieutenant Zhang and most of his team managed to extract before the Ragnar flagship regained partial systems control. They're aboard the Dauntless. Condition stable. Alina allowed herself a small smile. Open a channel to Ambassador Vex. Tilia's face appeared on the view screen, her expression a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. "Commander Reyes, I lack words to express our gratitude. You've saved tens of thousands of my people who would otherwise have perished." "This isn't over, Ambassador," Alina assured her. "We've evacuated your people to safety, but we haven't abandoned your world to the Ragnar. This was just the first engagement. The Council will be furious," Talia warned. "You've directly contradicted their non-intervention policy." "Let them be furious," Alina replied. "Maybe it's time someone reminded them what principles are supposed to mean. We're setting course for Earth with your evacuees. Our governments can discuss next steps once your people are safely settled." As the human fleet departed the Aurelian system with their precious cargo of refugees, news of the battle spread throughout Council space. The humans, dismissed as primitive newcomers to the galactic community, had successfully challenged the Ragnar Empire and rescued thousands from a world the Council had abandoned. 3 weeks later, representatives from Earth and the Aurelian survivors stood before the Galactic Council. High Chancellor Dorovan seemed distinctly uncomfortable as Ambassador Collins from Earth addressed the Assembly. The Council's decision to abandon Aurelia Prime to the Ragnar has forced humanity to reconsider its position regarding Council membership, Collins stated. "We cannot in good conscience join an organization that selectively applies its principles of mutual defense and cooperation." Murmurs spread through the chamber as Collins continued. Instead, Earth and the Aurelian people announced the formation of a new alliance, one founded on the principle that loyalty to allies is not negotiable, regardless of political expediency. "This is outrageous," Dorovan sputtered. "You risk galactic stability with this provocation." Talia Vex stepped forward. "What risked galactic stability, Chancellor, was the Council demonstrating that its guarantees of protection are meaningless. The humans proved that technological superiority means nothing without the courage to stand by one's allies." In the months that followed, other species, particularly those from smaller worlds who had long feared their own potential abandonment by the Council, began diplomatic overtures toward the new Earth-Aurelian alliance. The Ragnar, faced with unexpected resistance and growing diplomatic isolation, scaled back their territorial ambitions. On Earth, Commander Alina Reyes received a new assignment, Fleet Admiral of the expanded Earth Defense Force, tasked with protecting not just humanity, but all members of the growing alliance. As she stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Orbital Command Center, watching as Aurelian engineers worked alongside human technicians to integrate their crystalline technology with Earth's industrial capacity. She reflected on how much had changed in so short a time. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Akachi approached. "The Aurelian ambassador requests your presence. Their scientists believe they've found a way to enhance our shield technology using principles derived from their crystalline architecture." Elena nodded. "Tell the ambassador I'll be there shortly." She took a final moment to observe the Earth below, no longer just one isolated world finding its way in a vast, indifferent galaxy, but the centerpiece of a new coalition founded on principles the Council had forgotten. The day they abandoned the Aurelians, she murmured to herself, was the day humanity found its true path among the stars.